was like. Hi everyone, my name is Siamak and this is my Geosynthetics podcast. I'm very happy to introduce my guest today. Mink is my guest. Mink, if you want to introduce yourself a little bit for myself and the audience today, and just a bit about your career. That's normally my first question about how you ended up in geosynthetics industry.
Okay. My name is Mink Harmsel, which is for foreigners very difficult to pronounce, so most people call me Mink. I'm almost 65, so early to my retirement, and I started in the business at a company called Nicolon in 1980, the 1st of August, and Nicolon was one of the first companies in the geosynthetic business. It was formed in the Netherlands after the flooding of the Eastern Schelde Dam. So in that period, I started as a filter engineer for dry filters. So my background is chemical engineering, and slowly I went into the other businesses of Nicolon that time. Then it became Tenkate Nicolon. Then it became Tenkate Geosynthetics. So that's where I had my company. Started at the company, stayed at the company, and will retire at the company after 41 years.
41 years. Now that's a big achievement, Mink. And I think, throughout the past 40 or more than 40 years, you have obviously traveled around the world, a lot of places that you have seen, and comes with that experience that you have achieved a lot of, I think, very big experience of different cultures and different people that you've been dealing with.
Correct. So I have let's say I had the honor to be on all the 4 continents traveling, but for business mainly EMEA, European, Middle East, and Africa. But as we have companies in Asia and we have companies in the United States, I was also over there. And in vacations, I still like to travel, even with the extensive travel I did for my business. So I went to other places in South America at that time. And the nicest thing is to talk with local people and smell the culture and learn the culture of the people, and also understand the culture, because I think understanding the culture of people and also the people where you deal with is one of the basic things also in doing business, also in your personal life, to get a good relationship.
Yeah, of course. And I think maybe in the past year or so with the COVID situation around the world, we have seen many changes in the ways of communication, and I think that sort of results changes also in the way that we do business these days. How do you see that change, and what do you think will be the effect of that change in the communication and change in the business on the actual relationship developments?
I'm still coming out of the time that there was no mobile telephone when we started doing business, so everything was done on personal relationship. So and what we see now is in the change with internet communication is that people get more swift communication or quick communication. So if you travel around, and what I do and also my colleagues do a lot, and go to distributors or agents or contractors, you have a conversation face to face. And also, let's say, the not spoken impression by your face says a lot of things sometimes. So, and that you miss that if you go by Teams or by Zoom.
Yeah.
You see people just shortly. It's all focused in half an hour maximum, and then people go their own way again. If you are traveling, you meet people, you meet them in the evening on dinner. You talk not only about business, you also talk about personal things and things around into the market environment, which you don't get into a Teams call or something. So what I think will happen is that, I hope it will happen, and as I see it, is that people will use the Teams for the quick arrangements, but they will still need to have personal contact in meetings. I see it now also again by now traveling in Europe is getting a little bit more open and easier, that you see people getting more traveling. Everyone was saying, Teams is working perfectly. And then in the beginning, everyone saying, yes, it works perfectly. But then after a year, 2 years, people are missing those local and personal contacts. So they will establish it. traveling will be less because you can do a maintenance call between the traveling, which you couldn't do in the past. You had to go there to do the maintenance call with and keep up with your people. And that will be, I think, changing in the future, that you will have still the traveling going on, but less as in the past.
That's right. Yeah. And to be honest, that sort of face-to-face impression and sort of being able to build up and maintain that relationship, it's important to continue the combination. Like you said, it will be less travel in the future, probably, but that nothing sort of can substitute a face-to-face meeting or relationship. So with that, Mink, I think you've had lots of experience in building relationships with your clients in the past 41 years. My question is about mainly focusing on long-term relationships. You basically want to have repeat business with your clients. And what do you see in that area, like in terms of being the main focus for somebody working in this geosynthetics industry, to create those relationships and then maintain it for long term? That might come with, let's say, problem solving approach, and being honest with the clients. So you're basically providing a product and a solution for their problem, but how do you think that communication should happen, and how do you maintain that relationship long term?
What I learned is that listening to your client or to the people is very important to understand what is their problem. And I learned a hard lesson also by telling them that I had a solution. At the end of the day, you only help them to find a solution. And if you're honest into that and say okay, I understand your problem, that's the first thing what you have, or I understand the project which you want to achieve, then it's good to inform them that you will help them to find a solution. Don't tell them you have a solution, because every problem has its own and a way. And to be honest into that, and also sometimes you have to say no, that people come with a question to you, and then when you are younger, and especially in the beginning, you're eager to get a project, you're eager to get a sales. And sometimes at the end of the day, you work yourself further and further into the problem. So sometimes it's better to say, okay, I understand your problem, and I see also there are possibilities, only I'm not able to supply that solution for you, or I cannot help you. I have not the skills or not the knowledge in our company to do it. And that honestly gives you a credit with the people. Then for the next project, they will come back to you and they will ask you, can you help me this one? Last time you said no, but can you help me this? That's a better way to do it than going further away. And at the end of the day, it will be a disaster and they will never contact you again. So, and that's building up a relationship. We built up a relationship with one of our businesses, our clients, who 30 years ago, I traveled around, and then you still had your business card and you dropped it into a post box if no one was at home. They contacted me during my travel, so I went back again. The company is now existing 30 years. And the guy, I had a phone call 2 weeks ago, and they've celebrated their 30 years anniversary. And they said, this company never would have existed if Mink Harmsel would not have put his business card in our postcard. So, and that's a long time relationship and that you can build on. And that's also working together at that time. Exactly.
Yeah, that's actually a very, very good message, I think, for everyone listening or watching this podcast, that obviously no one can claim that they have a full solution available, but it's working in a team, and everyone looks at the problem from their angle, and then together we can find a solution for the problem. And like you said, I think the long-term relationship is always should be the focus, not just a short-term, getting a project or a sales, and then that I think that's a good message for our listeners as well. And Mink, I think in the past 40 years you have also seen a lot of competition in the market. So doesn't matter where in the geosynthetics industry you are, it's not just the products, to be honest. Myself as a consultant, we always compete against other consultants. to win a project. It's the same, was very similar in the supply, manufacturing, contractors, and installation companies as well. So you have seen a lot of those sort of examples of competitions in different parts of the world and maybe different projects. What do you think that competition should look like versus, we all, at the end of the day, we are all working in the same industry. So every one of us maybe have a responsibility to build up our industry as like the geosynthetics industry. So how do you think we should be looking at, an end goal, not just again a short-term goal to win a project or something when you are in competition with another company? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, you got competition and competition, let's say it like that. But my opinion is that as geosynthetics is still a relatively new industry, it's maybe 50, 60 years old. So, and there's still a lot of people to convince about the beauty of geosynthetics and what you can do, the solutions you can bring, or the problem solvings you can bring with this new technology. That is, competition should be, and then you have to be careful that you are not coming in all kind of acts that you have working together in competition. But as a branch industry or a group, which is your industry leaders market, you have to promote the use of geosynthetics, the advantages of geosynthetics. You have to be honest also of things which are not as good, but you have to bring it as a total market. And then at the end of the day, there will be local and competition on pricing and on delivery times, etc. You will keep that, and that has to be stay in the market. Otherwise, you would be having sky-high prices, and that's not the reason. And also, if there's no competition, there will be no development. There will be no innovations. So you have to work as an industry together to promote. But at the end of the day, you are competition. But also as an industry, if you work at the end of the day as competition, you bring each other to a higher level. And that's what you see in the geosynthetics industry. By competition, you get a higher level of knowledge, you get a higher level of quality and products. Because when I started in the industry, we only had a polyethylene woven fabric with 40 kilonewtons. Now we have polyester fabrics with 3,000 kilonewtons. So if there would be no competition, we would have been carrying on only with the 40 kilonewtons, and that's it. So we had the Henry Ford thought, we can sell everything as long as it's black, then it's driving and it's black, then it's okay. So you have to be in that area and build each other up to a higher level. And I think then geosynthetics has still a bright future to do it if you bring it on that level as together as a competition, or as a market, not as competition.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think maybe societies such as IGS, there's one big reason of having those societies is to basically work as a team, work as an industry, and help.
Yeah, they are very important for the market. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you had any involvement with the society activities in the past?
I was a member when on the Nickelon part. It was done by EHM, which is the European Association of Geotextile Manufacturers. When that was in my Nickelon operation, and afterwards it was taken over by more technical people into the branch, because that was on that level. At the moment, my direct chef Jürgen Gruber is member of EHM at the part of geosynthetics. We have a lot of people also in IGS, that's Chris Lawson and those people, the famous people in the geotextile industry. Yeah.
No, that's perfect. And then going back to your personal interests, and you mentioned, travel was always one of them, and you had the opportunity to travel around the world with your work. What are those sort of personal interests that you found interesting during the past 40 years?
Nature and culture.
Yeah.
I traveled together with my past wife. We traveled a lot, and we went to China, Peru, and to have the nature, have the culture, those kind of things. Since Corona, I'm not able to travel anymore. So what we do in the Netherlands, then we pick up our bicycle and we go in holiday. We go driving through the Netherlands. So last summer, I did 1,325 kilometers in 2 weeks on my bicycle, going through the Netherlands, which is flat. So that's not a real problem.
Yeah.
And then I go hiking or walking into the mountains. We don't have mountains in the Netherlands, so you have to go to Austria or Germany to get a little bit hilly area.
Yeah.
So that's what I like to do. So, and that's back nature. So I'm outside on my bicycle, on my own, enjoying nature. See in the morning the deer, and then during the day you see a lot of people, and then sitting on a little terrace, have a beer and watch people. So that's the culture again. So what is happening? Because even in the Netherlands, which is a small country, the culture in the north is totally different as the culture in the south of the Netherlands. So people are
nice. Yeah, I didn't know that. So yeah, in such a small country, as you mentioned, there's that much difference. And I think that brings us to the last question of this podcast, which I normally ask my guests about their highlights. So you've been in this industry for more than 40 years. You might have even more than one highlight, but I just want to ask you what that highlight is and why do you think it is your highlight?
Yeah, as you say, there are more highlights in my career. It's too difficult to tell the one, but the most thing I remember also is one of my first business trips I had when I was I started 2 weeks after I started at Nickelodeon. I had to solve a problem, or it was a complaint. And I had to go to the north of the Netherlands, and they have their local language over there. And my mother comes from that area. So luckily I understood that local language. And when I had standing at the area, and they were the guys who were doing the operation. So not the guy I was talking, the purchaser, but the operational guys. They were talking in the local language, and they had told me the problem.
Yeah.
So, and the problem was on their side. So, and I didn't say anything. I just listened. And then afterwards, I went back to the other guy and said that's your problem. So what I understood is from listen to the local or to the operating guys, and that's on contract sites, that's in companies and at the production facilities. Try to get more your information, and that's in the beginning going back again. Try to get the information by listening, and that is not listening just to the people who are asking you, but also listening to the people who are doing the job and who work and who know what they are doing. So try to find the knowledge on the place where it is, and don't get the knowledge through someone else who is just briefing and then filtering what he has to tell. So try that. And I think that's one of the highlights because it formed me also for the rest of my business, from listening and looking to culture and living that kind of things.
Yeah. No, that's very important. I think throughout your career, you've obviously seen a lot of different projects and different clients that you work with. Always listen. That's I think the message to all of us, that try to really comprehend the problem. That's the first step to actually finding or trying to find the solution.
Yeah.
Very, very great message. All right, perfect. Thanks, Mink, again for your time for this episode of my podcast. And I think you are somehow close to retirement or something that I hear. Is that true?
Yes, that's true. At the end of the year, on 31st of December, I become 65, and then the 1st of January, my retirement starts.
Okay. Yeah, congratulations on the big achievements throughout your career, and I hope this podcast also becomes something that you remember towards the end of your career. So thanks again for your time, and thanks to my audience for watching or listening to this episode. And we catch you up in the next episode. Thanks very much. Bye.